Many online sources contain myths and misinformation about Japan. Let's test your knowledge. Count your correct answers and share your score. 1. Myth: there are no street names in Japan. While Japan doesn't use street names like Pushkin Street or Gagarin Avenue, addressing is based on a complex system of block numbers, lot numbers, and building numbers. This system, combined with the widespread use of precise GPS coordinates and mapping services like Google Maps, makes navigation relatively straightforward. The lack of street names stems from historical reasons and the dense urban planning in many Japanese cities. Furthermore, the system has been augmented with additional identifiers such as the names of major intersections or prominent landmarks to assist in locating specific addresses. 2. Myth: Japanese traffic lights are blue, not green. Japanese traffic lights use the standard international colors, red, yellow, and green. However, the Japanese word for green, aoi, can also be used to describe colors that in English would be considered light blue or bluish green. This linguistic nuance extends to other areas, such as referring to young leaves as aoi leaves, and even blue vegetables for what English speakers call green vegetables. This reflects a different cultural perception of color categorization. 3. Myth: microwaves are banned in Japan. This is completely false. Microwaves are widely used and readily available in Japan. In fact, due to their compact size and multifunctional capabilities, they are frequently preferred to conventional ovens or toasters in Japanese households. The popularity of microwaves is partly attributed to the typically smaller size of Japanese kitchens. 4. Truth: Japanese people often address each other by their last names, even at school. In Japanese culture, using someone's last name is a common and respectful way of addressing them, especially in formal settings or between individuals with an existing power differential. While this doesn't mean they don't know first names, using surnames establishes a level of formality and politeness. This custom extends to school environments, even among classmates. Over time, nicknames based on last names may develop amongst close friends. 5. Myth: the Japanese never mix wasabi and soy sauce with sushi. While high-end sushi restaurants often present sushi with wasabi already applied by the chef, it's common practice in many casual settings, including homes and less formal restaurants, to mix wasabi with soy sauce before dipping the sushi. This mixture is sometimes even referred to as wasabi joy. The difference in practice highlights the variation in culinary customs associated with different levels of formality and dining experiences. 6. Truth: real wasabi is expensive and often substituted. High-quality, fresh wasabi is indeed costly, typically ranging from $8 to $9 per small piece. It also has an extremely short shelf life. The wasabi paste commonly available, even in Japan, often contains a mixture of other ingredients such as horseradish and food coloring to mimic the color and flavor of genuine wasabi. This is due to the difficulty and cost of cultivating and preserving authentic wasabi. 7. Truth: the death penalty exists in Japan. Capital punishment is legal in Japan, with hanging being the method of execution. While executions are carried out, the frequency varies. 2020 marked the first year without any executions in nearly a decade, although this was partly attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. 8. Myth: foreigners born in Japan automatically acquire citizenship. Birth in Japan does not automatically grant Japanese citizenship. To obtain citizenship, individuals generally need at least one Japanese parent or must fulfill stringent residency requirements and meet various other conditions, including passing a Japanese language proficiency test and background checks. 9. Myth: foreigners cannot wear kimonos. Wearing a kimono is not restricted to Japanese citizens. In fact, many Japanese people welcome foreigners wearing traditional clothing, provided it's worn respectfully and correctly. Kimono rental shops exist, often providing assistance with dressing. 10. Myth: prostitution is legal in Japan. While sex work is illegal in Japan, the ambiguity of the law, combined with the presence of loosely regulated businesses offering sexual services, has created a complex situation. The legal framework focuses on punishing those who solicit or arrange such services, while seemingly overlooking those providing them, which has led to an extensive, albeit legally gray, sex industry. 11. Truth: Edo is the old name for Tokyo. Tokyo, the capital of Japan, was formerly known as Edo. The name change reflects the shift in power and influence from the Edo shogunate to the Meiji era. 12. Myth: slurping is part of Japanese etiquette. Slurping, characterized by loud, audible noises while eating, is generally considered impolite in Japan. However, subtly sucking noodles, particularly when consuming ramen or other noodle dishes, is often acceptable as it is difficult to eat noodles quietly without doing so. This cultural nuance highlights the difference between audible, ostentatious slurping and the quieter act of pulling in noodles. 13. Truth: families often bathe in the same bathwater. It's customary in Japan for family members to bathe sequentially in the same bathwater, conserving water and heat. However, it's important to note that thorough washing of the body and hair is done before entering the bath, which is primarily for relaxing and warming, not for cleaning. Thus, the bathwater remains relatively clean. 14. Myth: fathers routinely bathe with daughters beyond a certain age. While it is customary in some Japanese families for parents to bathe with young children of both sexes, this practice generally ends when children reach approximately 8 to 10 years old or when the child expresses discomfort with it. The age varies considerably depending on family customs and the child's preference. The practice of bathing together in public onsen follows a similar age guideline, differing slightly by region. 15. Myth: water is the most expensive utility. In Japan, electricity is generally considered the most expensive household utility compared to water. Water costs are significantly lower, usually around $10 to $15 a month, while electricity costs vary depending on usage, but usually range from $80 to $150 or more. 16. Myth: Japan has a higher suicide rate than Russia. While Japan's suicide rate is relatively high compared to other developed nations, it's not necessarily higher than Russia's. International comparisons of suicide rates require careful consideration of data collection methods and reporting differences. 17. Myth: there is a fine for being overweight in Japan. There is no penalty for being overweight in Japan. The myth originated from the mandatory health checks for people over 40, including waist circumference measurements, which are conducted for health monitoring and preventative purposes. 18. Myth: husbands' salaries are transferred to their wives' accounts. Japanese law mandates salaries be paid into the individual's account, while wives often manage the household finances and may have access to their husband's bank card. There's no legal requirement for salary transfers. 19. Truth: love hotels exist in Japan. Love hotels, specifically designed for short-term romantic encounters, are a unique aspect of Japanese culture. While their construction is technically restricted by law, existing hotels are often repurposed or cleverly designed to circumvent regulations. They are distinguished by their luxurious amenities and various hourly rental options. 20. Myth: there are no unemployed or homeless people in Japan. Japan, like any other country, experiences unemployment and homelessness. While the rates are relatively low compared to some other nations, they are still present. The unemployment rate was 2.8% in 2020. 21. Myth: used panties are sold in vending machines. This is a false and outdated rumor. While some sex shops might have vending machines selling lingerie, it is not used underwear. Any suggestion otherwise is likely a marketing ploy or an old misconception. 22. Myth: Japanese women don't shave their armpits. Body hair removal, including underarms, is common practice among Japanese women. The prevalence of techniques such as waxing, epilating, and shaving varies, but the overall cultural trend is towards hair removal. 23. Truth: Japan experiences snowy winters in certain regions. While Tokyo rarely sees heavy snowfall, significant snowfall is common in northern prefectures such as Hokkaido, Aomori, and Nagano, often receiving several meters of snow. 24. Truth: the Japanese school year begins in spring. The academic year in Japan begins on April 1st. 25. Myth: schoolgirl uniforms have short skirts. While many schoolgirls shorten their skirts by rolling them up, the standard length of Japanese school uniforms is actually knee length or longer. The practice of shortening the skirts is a fashion choice and trend, not reflective of the uniform's official design. 26. Myth: crooked teeth are currently popular in Japan. While a specific female celebrity with slightly crooked teeth made the style briefly popular, straight white teeth are currently considered the preferred aesthetic in line with broader global trends. 27. Myth: refusal of after-work drinks with the boss is unacceptable in modern Japan. In contemporary Japan, declining an invitation to socialize with superiors after work is becoming increasingly common and generally acceptable, particularly among younger generations, unlike the past. 28. Myth: leaving work before the boss is unacceptable in modern Japan. Similar to declining social invitations, leaving before one's boss is increasingly common, especially among younger workers. However, lingering until the boss departs remains a common practice for many due to social politeness and expectations. 29. Truth: many Japanese apartments don't allow pets. Pet restrictions are prevalent in many Japanese rental apartments and houses, primarily to protect the property's condition and to accommodate individuals with allergies. This isn't universal, with some buildings specifically catering to pet owners. 30. Truth: there is no swearing in Japanese like in some other languages. While Japanese contains rude and offensive words, it lacks the equivalent of the continuous, uninterrupted flow of swearing found in languages like Russian. However, harsh or insulting language can still be used depending on context and intent.